Is UK media correspondent and royal reporter Neil Shawn, who has covered the royal family for more than 20 years. Neil, welcome to you. We covered the wedding of Catherine and William. You joined our coverage for that and for pretty much every royal event since then, and probably before that as well, now that I think about it. What is your reaction to this news today, Neil?
I've got to be honest with you, Martha, being really honest here. I got a little bit choked up, you know, because what I'm looking at is a very brave lady, for any lady out there going through a very similar thing. This particular video was filmed on the Wednesday of this week. And as we know, the battle that was going around all of that sort of stuff, you know, and the ridiculousness of the Photoshop stories and stuff. And there you have a lady who's very poised. I've been told all in one take. And I don't mean that glibly, but, you know, it's very hard to get that sort of thing out and keep that calm composure. And again, what you're actually seeing is a lady who's clearly thinking of others, because she's not trying to frighten anybody. She's just being very pragmatic, telling you exactly the problem, the situation. And I was very warmed by the fact that, you know, she says she's well and, you know, looking forward. That's the thing that I think a lot of people really should be holding on to, because so far this year, let's be honest, it's been a terrible sort of 2024 for the British monarchy, you know. But you have to remain positive, and hopefully now it's on the up, as it were, you know.
Yeah, she said that she shared with her children. She said, as I said to them, I am well and I am going to be okay, and that William is by her side, and that is a great comfort to her. That in the face of a lot of speculation. And you know, Neil, even, you know, people who barely watch any of this kind of story in their general daily lives have said to me over the past month or so, I hope she's okay. You know, this sounds like it might be something serious. And there was a sense of worry, which unfortunately today, that part of this story seemed to have been justified, Neil.
Well, absolutely, Martha. And I think also let's just focus a little bit on His Royal Highness, the Prince of Wales, because, you know, Prince William, you know, has carried on working in all of this backlash, as it were, and what's been going on in his mind, as I'm sure one can imagine, and trying to keep it together, because that's what it's about. I think, you know, sometimes, you know, the partners, I'm sure people will agree with this, get forgotten. And, you know, as you can hear from the video, she said that William's been a sort of tower of strength, all that sort of stuff. I think the difficulty now, you know, moving forward for Catherine, because let me tell you what I know so far. This was sort of and ahhing about whether she should deliver this message or not. As I say, it was recorded on the Wednesday, but Catherine's definitely leading her own narrative. And my belief is that she wants to, you know, be reaching out to anybody who's going through a very similar situation. And by being transparent and open and honest, and that's now what we know has been the problem, I think this has done a tremendous amount of good for many people, not only who are very concerned about her health, but of course, possibly in a very similar situation themselves. You know, to me, I thought she looked great. I just want to see her back. Doing what she does best, which is, of course, representing our wonderful British monarchy. But that, seriously, could be some time, around about September, I'm being told.
Not till September, is your understanding? I mean, we've just talked about 3 to 6 months of chemotherapy, but, you know, as we said, Easter was the original date that she was expected to be back. Yeah. But September is, you know, obviously several more months away than that. We'll see what happens. You know, my mind goes back, Neil, to February 27th, when William canceled a planned appearance and cited personal matters. That was sort of the first indication. And of course, you know, people went to town with, you know, some of what might be going on in their personal lives. I don't think anybody really, you know, I mean, you know, I think some people did think that there might be a serious medical condition as well. But that was sort of a little bit of a hint there, wasn't it?
Absolutely, Martha. And what you have to remember as well is that this is the situation, you know, over here, you know, and I'm sure across the Commonwealth of world, we kind of feel we own them. I know that sounds, you know, tremendously trifle, as it were, you know, trivial, but, you know, we do, and we kind of want to know. And when there's a problem, we also want to know. So obviously, people have been very concerned, but they're kind of, well, what's the secrecy about? When you now know that what was going on, you have incredible sort of sympathy for, as I say, not only, let's remember that Prince William is also very concerned, very anxious about his own father, who's obviously got his own health battles as well. And then, Queen Camilla, there's one strong person there trying to prop a lot of people up, It's very concerning right now over here. I think it sent a sort of wave of, I don't mean to sound depressing, but, there is a slight depression across. You can feel it almost, of like, oh, goodness. But we have to remain resolute and strong. That's the whole thing,
Yes, keep calm and carry on. That she certainly presented that kind of front when we just heard from her, Neil. I want to ask you about the Harry part of the equation, because obviously William is very much on his own right now. His father, the king, and his wife, both sidelined having cancer treatment. I mean, this is, if someone told you that this was what was about to happen, I don't think anybody would have believed it. And that Harry is completely out of pocket. And I can't help but think of, a person who was taken too soon, and that's Princess Diana and her boys, and what she would have likely wanted to see in this kind of moment for her family. Harry and William side by side, carrying on and stepping in where they're needed. But that is not the equation we've got.
I know, and you're absolutely correct on that, because, you lean on the closest to you, don't you? And that is the problem, I think it's very difficult because Prince William, is a very sort of strong, determined person, and he feels incredibly hurt by what has gone on and what has come out directly from his younger brother's mouth, literally on television documentaries, in books, that sort of thing. It's very, you could say, well, this changes everything, but it's very difficult to departmentalize that and say, well, that's all right, we'll just sweep all that away. That's not necessarily how it works. And I think for Harry, he must be going through a terrible time himself, very anxious about not knowing, because obviously we do know he's slightly cut off, Martha, that he doesn't really get told anything. He would not have known this situation at all when he flew back on that very quick visit. So, he's out in a limbo, and dare I say, they're not exactly going to be welcome within certain areas of the British monarchy, which is a terrible shame. One can only hope that somebody, perhaps maybe the Royal Princess Anne, knocks a few heads together, as we often say, and says, get on with it, because we need somebody strong. I think a little bit like that now. And she's done also a tremendous job in representing the king. Let's not forget, he's got a good team around him. I think now what needs to happen is, and maybe this could be the case, that this does actually unite the family, but I'm not necessarily seeing that, if I'm really honest.
Yeah, no, it appears that way. And we see a statement from Rishi Sunak, the Prime Minister of the United Kingdom. He said, my thoughts are with the Princess of Wales, Prince of Wales, the royal family, and in particular her 3 children at this difficult time. He goes on to say that the whole country the whole country has her love and support. She's shown tremendous bravery with her statement today. In recent weeks, she has been subjected to intense scrutiny and has been unfairly treated by certain sections of the media around the world and on social media. When it comes to matters of health, like everyone else, she must be afforded the privacy to focus on her treatment and be with her loving family. I speak for the whole country, wishing her a full and speedy recovery. But let's talk about that, Neil. There has been an enormous amount of speculation with regard to, her weight, their relationship, all of this. And I guess that's what steps into the void when there isn't information. I'm not sure that excuses any of it, but clearly people stepped into that void with both feet.
I mean, you're correct in a sense, but I think the trivialities for me, were, sort of hounding this poor lady over a few Photoshop mistakes, and then agencies banning these pictures. It's ridiculous. I mean, there are bigger things in life for which we now know, but, that would have played on Catherine's mind, because she's a lady that takes everything very seriously. And as I mentioned before, let's not forget, she took her photography and does take her photography very seriously. In fact, Queen Camilla commissioned her to take those very beautiful pictures of her for her 75th birthday on the magazine think of her. So, you know, there's a very great bond there. And then to be picked apart when you're battling through this. And whatever people say, oh, you know, the royals don't read the newspapers are delivered every day. They do know exactly how they're represented in the media. And I've found that particularly distressing for her, because it wasn't like she did anything tremendously bad. It was just a few taps of the phone or whatever, you know. Did it really matter? But that pushed ahead. There has been also other negative stories around her. And one has to think, you know, as I say, what I look at when I see that video, Martha, is I think she should be applauded for literally going public. There's no two ways about that. I think that really gives her a sense of ownership of her own narrative, her own story. And I just really want to wish her, I'm sure everybody does watching your programme today, all the very best. I mean, you know, all of our good wishes, and God bless.
Neil, thank you so much. Neil Sean joining us from London at this hour.